not one, not two, but 3 different emails from 3 of the top medical device companies requesting for an interview. You guys, you can't tell me this was coincidence. You cannot tell me there is no God. Like, this was obviously good. Hi lovelies, welcome back to my YouTube channel. I'm Nengi and I always say to stay subscribed to this channel. We have an amazing time and we keep it hot, we keep it honest, open and transparent. Okay, so as you can see from today's title, I'm going to be sharing my first testimony. As you can see, I'm super excited to share, honestly, because my thing is, if God does something great and big in your life, why not share? Because when we have big moments in our lives, like graduations, birthday, like huge accomplishments, right? We always share. And so when God does something great for you, why don't you share? Like, why? Anyway, so let me start the story. Let me get into the little juicy tea. So as most people know, getting a job after graduation is just really tough. And then add being an international student on top of that. And let me explain for those who don't know. As an international student, not all companies make it eligible for international students to apply to certain roles or even just apply to the company in general. So some companies, they will literally have it either under the job description or they will have it somewhere like on their website that just says, sorry, we do not, maybe they don't always say sorry, but they'll say they don't sponsor, they don't provide sponsorship for international students. And when I say sponsorship, I mean that as an employer, for a foreigner to work for you, they need to have work authorization and a work visa. And the company is gonna have to provide the work visa. They're gonna have to be the one to file, the immigration claim and everything, saying that you work under them and things like that. And this costs them a couple $100, maybe not 100, but it costs them a couple of bucks. And so not every company is willing to do this, right, for international students. So that's what makes it really tough to find a job as an international student. Like, it literally makes it like 10 times harder. So anyway, back to my story. So as an international student, I was applying for jobs literally like, I started like a year before my graduation, right, a full year. And what did this look like? I was basically going for job conferences, like engineering conferences. I was going for career fairs and things like that, if you had it like in my university or things like that. So, and I was putting in literally tons of job applications. I put in over 750 plus job applications. And how do I know this? I was literally keeping track, okay? I'm very old school. I had my little notebook and I would literally write like a list of companies that I wanted to apply to. And as I apply for jobs, like literally as I put in one application, I'm kind of like putting in like a tally to say, okay, one application. I put in the second one, I put in 2, and then literally I would sum this up and that will basically give me the total number of applications I've put in for that specific company. And then I'll move on to the next company, literally sweeping their entire website for any role that I believe that, I'm a good candidate for. And I'll literally put in applications and keep track that way, basically. I put in about 750 plus applications, and I kid you not, the ratio of applications to rejections, phew. If you're looking for a job right now, I would tell you, do not be discouraged, because we all went through it. Like, literally you can put in 750 job applications, and out of every like 100 applications, I might get 0 to 1 interview. I kid you not. Like, it was really tough. And obviously people tell you things like, oh, make sure you're using keywords in your resume, like all of that still. I mean, it'll work a little bit, but maybe not. Like, it was just really hard. But anyways, it was hard finding a job. And honestly, I thought that after bagging 2 degrees, right, undergraduate, master's, in a specific like engineering course, I literally thought that, it would be very easy for me to find a job. And that was not the case. Like, it was actually really rough. But anyways, I graduated with my master's and I still did not have a job. So this was very annoying, because also when you're international, there's this thing called a work authorization card, EAD card. And basically the US government issues you this work authorization card. And once you get it in the mail after graduation, you literally have 90 days, 90 days to find a job. Now this might sound like a lot, but I kid you not, when you're going through the job application process, like it's pretty tough. Like, even the interview process alone usually takes a month, right? From the recruiter to the hiring manager and then the panel interview. It literally usually spans out between the course of 1 month. So 90 days is about 3 months, and it just wasn't enough time. But anyway, so we have this clock ticking over our heads, and we're trying to apply for these jobs. So I was applying, and honestly, like, it was just really an exhausting and mentally draining process. And so what I did, literally, I remember this day, it was the day before my birthday, August 25th, and I was so mentally drained. Like, the past couple of nights were rough. Like, I literally wasn't able to sleep. I just had so much on my mind. Like, I need to get this job, like things like that, and prep for this interview, study for this other interview. Like, it was a lot going on at that time, honestly. And so I did not feel like celebrating my birthday. So what I did, I honestly did one thing that I know how to do very well. I literally just cried. I cried my heart out to God, you guys. I prayed again. Like, obviously I had been praying leading up to this point, but this was the point of, like, I was just really, like, down. Like, I was like at my lowest, like, in terms of, like, this job application process. And so I cried and I prayed. I prayed. I was very specific in my prayer, okay? Like, I'll come back to this later, but basically I was very specific with my prayer, and I was just praying to God that please give this to me as my birthday present. Like, I want to be able to find a job, like, very, very soon. Okay, so fast forward to the next day, right? It was August 26th, and it was my birthday, and I woke up to 3, not 1, not 2, but 3 different emails from 3 of the top medical device companies requesting for an interview. You guys, you can't tell me this was coincidence. You cannot tell me there is no God. Like, this was obviously good. Like, after praying, fasting, I forgot to mention, I fasted like a couple of days before for 3 days, praying about this specific topic and things like that. And basically, I got 3 emails requesting for 3 different interviews. I responded to the email saying, okay, my availability and things like that. And one of the companies, they had asked if I required sponsorship, and I said yes. And they basically said that, oh, I'm sorry, like, we don't provide sponsorship for international students, that they're gonna have to resend this interview. So obviously I was sad, but not that sad, because I still had the 2 lined up. But I remember, like, I hopped in the shower, and I remember, like, praying, like, in my mind, like, hoping, anyways, that God would literally replace the lost interview with a 3rd one, right? I was hoping to have 3 interviews, because it's always good to have options, right? So I literally said that prayer, like, in the shower, and you guys, I kid you not, like, clockwork, came out the shower, boom, I had another job interview lined up. Like, I literally had another email, so this would have been the 4th one to come in that day. That's why I'm saying you cannot, literally, in all of my 10 months of applying for jobs, I never had one day where I had more than 1 interview, like, scheduled, or even just, like, email or anything like that. So you cannot tell me it was not good, okay? So basically I had that interview replaced with, like, the new one, so I still had my 3 interviews lined up. Fast forward, you guys, I had never made it to the 3rd round of interviews. So remember, like I said, the first one's with the recruiter, 2nd one's with the hiring manager, and the 3rd one is usually with the panelist. And sometimes there might be a 4th and a 5th, but that has not been my case anyways. But so you guys, in the 10 months, I had never made it to the 3rd stage of interview. I kid you not, in all these 3 interviews that I got from God, I made it past the 3rd stage of all of them. Like, I made it to the 3rd stage of all of them. Like, that's how I know it was from God, because what? Like, and that's one thing about God. When he shows up, he shows out, okay? Anyway, I'm getting carried away. But yeah, so basically, so I made it to the 3rd round of interviews, and fast forward, I was able to get hired at one of the top medical device companies in the US, and honestly, I shared my first testimony, like, soon after. That's another thing, right? When I prayed, I said, God, if you do this thing for me, okay, I'm gonna share my first testimony. Like, that was actually, like, a promise I made to God. So I had to share my first testimony. Plus, honestly, I didn't mind sharing it because it's a great story. And honestly, I'm happy about it. So I had said this before. One thing I did in my prayer and my fasting that I did, I was very specific, okay? I was very specific with what I wanted out of a job. When I gave my first testimony, it was literally as soon as I got the job. But now, getting into the job, seeing how it was and everything, I noticed that God actually answered, like, all of my prayers. Like, I had prayed for an amazing boss, like somebody who would, love me and be very nice and very, like, supportive and everything. And I got just that. I got an amazing boss. I literally love that man. He was like my father, my uncle, whatever you want to call it. Like, he was just super supportive and everything. And then I also prayed to go to a remote location, because I had lived in New York, like right before that. I did my master's in New York. And when I was in New York, you guys, yeah, I was doing a lot. I was doing a lot outside every time. Like, yeah, so I wanted to go to a remote location. That way I can have some peace and quiet. I can get time to know myself, love myself, things like that. Just spend time with myself. Because when I was in New York, I feel like because I was around like so many people and a lot of my friends, like it was just very easy to literally always have company and not really like get time for myself. And like I said in my first video, if you don't get to know yourself, how can you love yourself, right? And I'll link that video down in the description box. Like I said, so the first thing I prayed for was a great boss. The second thing I prayed for was a remote location. And the third thing I prayed for was a really good work environment, meaning like I needed like mental peace, because I had seen and heard stories of like, you know, workplace violence and stuff like that. So yeah, so that was my testimony. God literally answered all my prayers. He literally showed up and showed out. Like, it was amazing. But that's it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. Be sure to like, subscribe, share, and comment. Okay, I want to know what huge things that God has done in your life. Share your testimonies. You never know, you could literally be encouraging somebody else. And that's why I share my testimony, like to encourage somebody else. So remember to keep the faith. Remember to be specific when you're praying. And yeah, God is going to show up and show out for you. Bye.